A figure below 1 means the epidemic is shrinking. Separately, the Office for National Statistics survey for the week ending last Saturday suggests just over 1.1 million people had the virus. Here's our science correspondent, Palab Ghosh.
The main conclusion from these set of figures is that the uncontrolled rise in cases has stopped, but infection levels remain very high and are not going down sharply. It's highest in London, where 1 in 35 people had the virus last week, but there was a slight decrease from the week prior to that. Projectors advising the government have indicated that there's unlikely to be a rapid fall in cases.
The First Minister Mark Drakeford said the country had fallen back from the peak of COVID cases, but now was not the time to relax the restrictions. Mr Drakeford also said that if infections continue to fall, he hoped to begin reopening classrooms from the 22nd of February.
We're looking to start with the very youngest children for a number of reasons. First of all, online learning really doesn't work for children of that very young age. Secondly, those children are the least likely to fall ill with the coronavirus, the least likely to pass it on to anybody else. And in our fantastic foundation phase here in Wales, there's a lot of outdoor learning.
Protesters who stopped a deportation flight taking off from Stansted have had their convictions overturned by the Court of Appeal. The group, known as the Stansted 15, attached themselves to a jet chartered by the Home Office to transport people from UK detention centres to Africa in March 2017. China has said it will no longer recognise the British national overseas passport held by thousands of people in Hong Kong. It's after the government here said that from Sunday, holders of the passport and their families could apply to live, work and study. Britain's Got Talent will not take place this year because of the pandemic. ITV has said the 15th series will now be filmed and broadcast in 2022. BBC News.
Now on BBC Radio 4, time to answer your gardening questions. Here's your host, Peter Gibbs.
Hello and welcome to Gardener's Question Time. And good news, folks, it's the final weekend in January, which means February starts next week. A whole 3 minutes of extra daylight every day, and the promise of spring is in the air. Are you feeling optimistic, audience?
En 1931.
C'est un bouquin?
Un bouquin?
La persistance de la mémoire, c'est un nom scientifique.
Ah non.
Která super tiebreaku porazila předloňskou Japonkou Sakovou. Bývalí hráči, například Američan Roddick nebo Ruska Šarapovová, přiznávali nadšení z pohledu na fanoušky v hledišti. Komentáře často chválí Austrálii a organizátory, že mohou v době koronavirové pandemie takové akce uspořádat. V Melbourne Jaroslav Pašil, Radý žurnál.
Zelená vlna. Známe lepší cestu.
Nehoda na D8 a...
Busy in charge of RHS Garden Wisley, it's Matthew Pottage. David Astle in Great Eccleston in Lancashire. Hello, David.
Hello. I've got some strawberry rhubarb. We reckon it's about 100 years old, growing in the garden. It's produced some really good stems over the years, and last year it produced one good crop and then very little after that. The only difference from the past is that someone took a tree down in the next garden close to the plant. Can you tell me what I've done wrong and how can I sort it out?
Okay, David, well this is intriguing. A rhubarb over 100 years old. How do you know it's as old as that?
We've seen pictures in the original garden and they're from about the 1920s.
Ответственность за мир и развитие на планете. Практика показывает, что в процессе сотрудничества Китай и Соединенные Штаты могут сделать массу полезных дел как для себя, так и для всего мира в целом.
Просто можно договориться, если только эти пары как-то не продолжение сотрудничества. А это
сотрудничество в противостоянии климатическим изменениям, сообщил в четверг официальный представитель китайского МИДа Джао Лидзе. С таким высказыванием он выступил на очередной пресс-конференции,
Zur ausführlichen Berichterstattung im Funkjournal begrüßt Sie jetzt Alex Gröbler-H. In unserem ersten Beitrag von Stefan Stoiker behandeln wir die Brandkatastrophe im wohl modernsten Krankenhaus für Infektionen.
Siano ricalcolate le pensioni e sia assunta anche un calendario del loro aumento che prende in considerazione le condizioni economiche attuali, particolari in un approfondimento di Corina Christian. Le divergenze sul tema delle pensioni tra il potere e l'opposizione continuano in Romania. La ministra liberale del lavoro, Raluca Turcan, ha annunciato che le pensioni dei romeni saranno ricalcolate.
Angesichts des Alters der Geräte und der Tatsache, dass das medizinische Personal überlastet oder sogar erschöpft ist, jederzeit überall in Rumänien wiederholen könnte. Die Gewerkschafter sollten Recht behalten. An diesem Freitag brach in Bukarest ein neues Feuer im Matei-Balch-Krankenhaus aus, einer medizinischen Eliteeinrichtung, die an vorderster Front im Kampf gegen die Pandemie.
김정은 위원장도 동의하고 또 39호시 방자금을 틀어서 이 여객기를 도입하는 것이기 때문에
영원히 행복한 삶을 살기 원하신다면 오늘 예수님을 믿으십시오. 예수님은 우리가 어디 가든지 함께 하시고 우리가 मुझे 일을 만나
पयविश नुक्तो अमल करें खुदा मलगरु मिल्लतुन लख्वा द तरहगर गर्जवल शोडलो परजदे द पाकिस्तान अमलियात निमगळे
نتیجه های تشخیص رو زیر شبهه میگذارن.
وقتی مانده اسکر هم بوباس نو هغه ته وخت شته اما یو شی چې خوښي څرګند
که در شل سالانه پاکاجا در گانی شبیو زورانی وما در
Dina yung chasha chuma, tarang ju kama, ne manye ju nimre khande manye kan ju chung ki chinda kubu ne ko to ri, ne thanda pa to ne mangu ta thi thole yana mangu ki tong se la ta
Gesundheitspolitik verlieren. Tatsächlich fängt ein Gebäude nicht.
既保证大家有丰富的影片可以观赏。
现在看这个呢，这个嘛，这个一瓜可六岁呢，这个可能个些，可这里我那个生。
पूरा गर्ने गन्तव्य सरकारले तय गरेको बताउनु भयो।
Und Impfung, weil es sind schon Leute massiv viel gestorben, die ganz zu Anfang im vorigen Jahr normales Covid hatten, das überlebt haben, müssten eigentlich immun sein und die sind jetzt an Marseille 4.
Number there, but okay, the 301 Delta, you're no problem at all there, Heinz, and the Wyndham in the inverted V configuration, working very well. 57, 5 and 7 on the last one with a little bit of QS Baker, and as you said, maybe conditions are changing, but it's normally about this time when we start to get Europe very strong, but it's been very strong most of the day into Europe, so very strange conditions. Not so much on the DX today for me here on 40 meters like it normally is, but ICOM 7610 full wave delta loop for 40 meters and about 250 watts at the moment there, Heinz. Back to you. Yeah, all Corbett there, Heinz, lovely pictures of the cars there, the old Frog Ride Sprite and the Triumph TR. I think that's a 4, I can't remember if it's a TR4 or a TR8. But anyway, yeah, looking very good with the cars there anyway, and okay, the picture there, you're blowing the old bagpipes. You need a lot of wind for that one there, Heinz, hi. Yeah, all the best to yourself, Heinz, thanks very much for calling in there today. Have a very, very good weekend, and we'll catch you further down. Delta Fox 5, Delta November, Mike 0, Tango Delta Sierra 70 signs. Seven threes. Okay, the 2E0, you still there? I am indeed. Thank you, Dave. 2 Echo 0 Delta Yankee Mike. I'm in the southwest of England, the county of Devon. I've been trying for absolutely ages to get rid of feedback on a DX3CHI.
An sein Himmelreich. Da brauchte es viele, die ihm helfen, ihn zu bearbeiten. Die ersten, die sich dazu berufen ließen, waren seine Jünger.
Individuellen Weg des Einzelnen Wert legen. Der Einzelne übernimmt Verantwortung für sich, ist verantwortlich für sein Leben.
Charts, Holidays, a medley from the Hollies. There was a load of those medley type songs around at the time. I blame Jive Bunny. Yes, I do. Let's hope he ended up in the pot, eh?
Mike Hotel, war das richtig? Ja, das war super und ganz schnell gemerkt, trotz Arbeitstags. DC5 VU DH1 im Haff. Schönen guten Tag, mein Name ist Michael, QDH Michelstadt. Liegt zwischen Frankfurt und Heidelberg gelegen. DC5 VU DH. Sehr sauber. Ja, Udi, ich wollte dich gerade Fahrrad fahren. Und you struggle to do that now. It tends to be propagation's pretty patchy, isn't it? But I'm sure, when it does really perk up, I will get back on there. But that can be very, very noisy. Und so weiter. Und das wird immer schwieriger. Nicht? Also wenn das hier möglich ist, werde ich mich hier impfen lassen und erst danach irgendwann im Frühjahr zurückfahren werden. So.
ja, wenn du das alles so machen kannst, ist das ja toll. Nicht? Das ist ja schön, eben halt innerhalb deiner Familie dann noch.
Een nummer is iemand een nummer geven, dat is ook zoiets. Ja, ik geef wel een nummer.
Relativ schätzungsaufwendige Teile aus Asien bei eBay, aber das ist schrottiges Zeug. Ne? Also wenn du dir da den Platinenaufbau anguckst, nee, also da möchte ich die Finger davon lassen. Und der vom Funkamateur, der soll also gut gewesen sein, dieser Bausatz. Oder ja, kann es hier verkaufen, ja, das glaube ich nicht. Frank, hast du noch eine Idee? Ja, also der Sun SDR macht ja 15 Watt, macht er ja bei 20 Watt Einstellung. So, und ich brauche aber für die Endstufe 45 Watt, also in dem Bereich die Aufstockung.
She might make more history. She might be the most awarded winner in music. Grammys coming up in March. But that request is from Monica from Kuwait, listening to Border Crossings 96.9 FM. That's called Willow. And that is the new release from Taylor Swift. And that is off her Evermore album. Her new album is out and doing very well for her. She's kind of broken all kinds of records. You name it, she's broken the records. And she's also said that she's got some new music coming out, another album of like greatest hits or something, that she's re-recorded a bunch of songs. Coming up, we'll stay in Kuwait for Kaunda C. James' request. It's the three guys who call themselves Cheat Codes, along with Demi Lovato, who is going to be starring in a TV show. It's a comedy show, and it's about an eating problem. And Demi Lovato herself in her real life has gone through some eating disorder struggles, but she's going to make light of that and be in a comedy on television, on NBC television. This song is No Promises. It's Border Crossings.
Wedding a lokacin yakin neman zaɓe, amma sanata mako review.
موقع الإدارة العامة للقبول www.admissions.government.sd حيث يتوفر في الموقع دليل القبول لمؤسسات التعليم यदि समझे लोग यदि सब व्यवस्था पालना करी गति व्यवस्था न रखिबे सब व्यवस्था अनेक लोक पूर्ण शब्द दशाज्ञा नियम गुड़िकर एक जस्ट भाव जहाँ पालना कले जन व्यक्तिर मृत्यु बले स्वर्ग राज्य प्रवेश कराइबा निश्चित कर दिए यार परिपंथी दशाज्ञार उद्देश्य होउछि यहाँ को जे सिद्ध जाई पारिबो एवं सेथि जगो से जे सेमानंकर ईश्वरंकर दया.
Пусть сомнения останутся, но укрепится вера. Пусть тревога не покинет.
Wind 270.
Toronto.
Valid from 59 to 1500.
30th at 1800 Zulu. Wind 010 degrees, 6 knots. Visibility more than 6 miles. Ceiling 3,000 broken. Temporarily 1500 Zulu until 1700 Zulu. Visibility 2.5 miles. Light snow showers. Ceiling 2,000 overcast. From 1700 Zulu. Wind 350 degrees, 10 knots. Visibility more than 6 miles. Ceiling 3,000 broken. Temporarily 1700 Zulu until 0000 Zulu. Visibility more than 6 miles. Light snow showers. From 0000 Zulu. Wind 030 degrees, 8 knots. Visibility more than 6 miles. Ceiling 3,000 broken. Ottawa. Valid from 29 at 1500 Zulu until the 30th at 1200 Zulu. Wind 300 degrees, 15 knots. Visibility more than 6 miles, 8,000 scattered. Temporarily 1500 Zulu until 2200 Zulu. Ceiling 8,000. Becoming between 0400 Zulu and 0600 Zulu. Wind 300 degrees, 7 knots. Broadcast of 1500 Zulu VCAR observation. Gander, time 1500 Zulu, wind 360 degrees, 11 knots, wind variable 290 degrees to 010 degrees, visibility 15 miles, ceiling 800 overcast, temperature -5, dew point -6. Montreal International Airport, time 1500 Zulu, wind 280 degrees, 10 knots, visibility 30 miles, ceiling 18,000 broken, 5,000 broken, temperature -16, dew point -22. Toronto, time 1500 Zulu, wind 360 degrees, 7 knots, visibility 6 miles, light snow showers, ceiling 3,000 broken, temperature -12, dew point -15. Ottawa,
уже столько реальность. И стараемся укрыться за ними. Только так мы можем что-то предпринять. Нам есть на чем сосредоточить внимание и о чем подумать.
20 pe 7370 și 9810 kHz și în sfârșit seara între
शङ्काको निवारण गर्नुहुनेछ र सही प्रकारको बाटो पहिल्याउन सक्नुहुनेछ। परमेश्वरको सच्चाइले अझ राम्रो बुझ्न सक्नुहुनेछ र आफ्नो जीवनलाई परमेश्वरमा पूर्ण समर्पित भएर समर्पण सहितको जीवन बिताउन सक्नु।
然而每年到了汛期和凌汛期，为了安全
network of research, the basis of the research collaboration in the past before the pandemic. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, and Duncan, some would say that the vaccine is also being politicized in the UK because, as we know, the UK is at a faster pace in vaccinating its citizens. Is this being used by some right-wing or pro-Brexit politicians as an example to justify Brexit?
It might be. I don't really want to stray too much into the discussion about Brexit here. Let me say something positive about this. There is a consensus across all the political parties in the UK that vaccination is required immediately and should be our national number one priority. So although there are anti-vax voices, they're extremely marginal and they don't have any political representation in the UK. Every single member of Parliament is in favour of this, all 650 of them, right across the political spectrum from left-wing to right-wing. And there's another thing which everybody in the UK has agreed on. The vaccines must be given to rich people and poor people alike for free. Nobody is going to be charged to receive the vaccine. If you go down to your doctor and say, I've got £10,000, I need it today, you will still have to wait in the queue depending on your clinical need, and that will be assessed by your age and whether you have any underlying health conditions. And what's fascinating about this is that is pretty much the consensus across the world. I have yet to come across a country where it's been decided by their government that the rich people who've got the money get the vaccines first, and then the poor people have to wait in line. Now, of course, that doesn't solve the problem that there is inequality in terms of different countries, but I'm afraid that's always the case, isn't it? That in the developed world, healthcare and education are much more limited in their availability than they are in rich countries. But in terms of national governments and blocs like the EU, there's an absolute agreement. Everybody should get this vaccine for free as soon as possible.
Right, you're right in saying that vaccines should be given to rich people and poor people alike, but the thing is, they should also be given to rich nations and poor nations alike. So Duncan, I mean, we're seeing this fight among rich nations over the distribution of the vaccines, but what do you think that would mean for the rest of the world?
So there's a risk, isn't there? That if there's an auction for the vaccines, then the rich will up the bidding. But I do notice that there are a lot of organisations which are trying to prevent that happening. So, for example, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in the United States has teamed up with the Serum Institute of India and COVAX to try to keep the prices of vaccines as low as possible. So they're effectively subsidising them, trying to get the vaccines out for a maximum price of $3 per dose when they go out to developing countries. That's an admirable goal, and I'm very pleased to say that it's something that is supported, by organisations from many different countries.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and Mr. Zhao, what do you think? Do you see any consequences of this vaccine dispute between rich countries?
Well, I really don't feel we have any much of a basis to simplify this to countries, because all governments around the world face the same set of challenges. Duncan alluded to that, and I agree. On the one hand, when you make vaccines free, some people will like it, but some others, probably a good number of others, would probably become skeptical. Say, if it's free, is it any good? Right? I'm healthy. I'm not sick. And then when a portion of that vaccine skeptic or people who are not informed of a vaccine, if they get infected, then, the pandemic continues. And when you give a price to the vaccine, then you risk leaving a second number of population out of reach. So it's not an easy solution.
Yes, thank you, Professor Jia Daojun and Duncan Bartlett. Let's take a short break here. Coming back, we'll continue our discussion.
Hello, this is Michael Zhang. Greetings from Los Angeles of the Golden State of California. Thank you today for making me part of your team. I enjoy the debates we had and look forward to many more in the years to come.
Hello, I'm Gloria Sid, First Secretary of the Embassy of Chile to China. It's been an honor taking part on your show and telling you about the relationship between Chile and China. Wishing you all the best.
In-depth analysis, valuable insights, expert views, presented by an award-winning team. Today, keeping you well informed, up to date, and ahead of the news.
Hello everyone, this is Noon Ahmed Khan, journalist from Pakistan, currently based in Tsinghua University. World Today is an excellent initiative to discuss current affairs by including experts from across the globe. I've always enjoyed our thought-provoking discussions and wish the team even more success and impact in the future. I am Dan Wang, China analyst from the Economist Intelligence Unit. Today is a very fun program. It is a place you hear interesting people discuss global events, social trends, and what is happening in China and in the rest of the world. So friends around the world, hope you can join us.
Welcome back. You're listening to World Today. I'm Zhao Ying. We're talking this hour about the fight over vaccine distribution and whether this will lead to a vaccine trade war. Joining us today, Duncan Bartlett, editor of Asian Affairs magazine and a research associate at the SOAS China Institute, University of London, and Jia Daojun, professor of School of International Studies at Peking University. So Duncan, we know that WHO chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, he said earlier that it is not right that younger, healthier adults in rich countries are vaccinated before health workers and older people in poorer countries. But do you feel it is almost unavoidable that those poorer countries will fall behind those richer nations in accessing their vaccines?
Well, I think whatever the moral argument is, I think it is inevitable that that is what will happen, because the governments of rich countries such as Germany, France, the UK are under enormous pressure to try to get the vaccines to their whole population. The thing is that at the moment the goal is to try to vaccinate people in the older age categories and then gradually bring it down so that teachers and students and so on are vaccinated so that education can begin again. It really, it's going to take a long time before there is a system in place to make sure that everybody in all the developing countries has a vaccine available. But, it could happen. I mean, if we look at situations like polio, which was once a very severe disease across the world, it was almost completely eliminated. It occasionally pops up in developing countries, but it's rare now. And of course, the other great source of encouragement is that in the early part of the 20th century, the influenza outbreak, which cost millions of lives, spread from Europe through the United States and around the world, and that was suppressed as a result of a major global vaccination program. So I hope that we'll be able to reach that stage, but it will be a difficult path, because, as we can see, there already have been quite a lot of disruptions to supply and distribution vaccines in mainland Europe. I expect that we're going to see that continuing.
Yes, actually, timing is very important, right? So, Professor Jia, I mean, people repeatedly say that the virus knows no borders, no one is safe until everyone is safe. But in the end, national governments, they will face internal pressure, and they're doing everything to satisfy their own citizens, their own voters.
Right. Hello?
Yes, Professor Jia. Do you feel it is almost unavoidable that those poor countries will fall behind in vaccinating their citizens?
Well, this really is a question that puts me between a rock and a hard place. I've written about this because, when after speaking with Chinese journalists about it, and you see, on the one hand, you have the issue of poverty or, the dire need for vaccines. But on the other hand, you put yourself in the shoes of a government like that of China that's in a position to provide vaccines at whatever cost. Precisely because your product has not been tested, has not been going through clinical trials in a particular poor country market, how certain are you that this is going to be safe and effective and, protect the real population? I think that same technical question really has to be answered. Nobody, whether government or what corporations, should be arrogant enough to say my vaccine works universally for all populations. And we have already read reports about vaccines may not be as effective in some ethnicities because during the design stage, those ethnicities were not participatory enough. So this is really a very difficult question, and I would really think it's about time to be cautious about this call for equality, for fast distribution of vaccines to anybody needy around the world, regardless of da-da-da-da-da. And those da-da-da-da-das really mean something.
Right, and actually the thing is, many countries, they don't even have choices. Like South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, he is criticizing those rich nations for hoarding vaccines. So Professor Jia, how do you explain the move of some rich nations ordering vaccine doses several times what their population needs?
Well, that's a issue that clearly we need to, hopefully those governments deliver on the words they promise. It's not the first time for what you just quoted, the South African leader to be saying the hoarding. This happened in the recent past, let's say about 10 years ago, when you had the swine flu, H1N1, and there was a number of rich governments buying up all the possible products, and some of them actually promised to deliver, donate up to 10%, whatever, at no cost to countries in need. A similar scheme is happening, and I just read somewhere yesterday that Cambodia is actually receiving free donations from a particular developed country of up to $3 million doses. So this is happening. But obviously, people in poor countries cannot wait. These kind of donations, acts of mercy, will be based on satisfying the needs of their own population first. I think it's a matter of speed, it's a matter of scale, and the better choice. You have to think about people in these countries or governments have dignity as well, right? They don't just want to receive free handouts. So the solution here, I would think, is to fast track the mass production of the vaccines. And that's what I mentioned earlier on. The developing country vaccine manufacturers network has to come into play. If, for example, a vaccine that's expensive in a developed economy, that's expensive, but you can bring down the cost by lowering let's say, license fee. You're lowering the IP cost, intellectual property cost, and or you have joint production. Let somebody else to manufacture them, distribute free, because distribute at low price. Right now, supply is tight, mainly because the production capacities are limited. Especially when you have quality control issues. And then the regulatory responsibilities are at stake.
Right. So Duncan, what do you think?
Well, it's true that there is a lack of supply, but it's increasing all the time. one of the very positive pieces of news today that's come from the British Prime Minister is relating to a vaccine which is produced by a company called Novavax. The Prime Minister has looked at the results that have been presented by Novavax and has said that it's great news because it's 83% effective, which means that it's, in theory, suitable for widespread use. The UK's ordered 60 million doses of this jab. It's going to be manufactured, actually, in the UK, even though Novavax is an American company. 60 million doses is an enormous number. There is an obstacle to pass before we get to that stage, though, because it would need to be approved by the pharmaceutical regulator in the UK. So far, the UK has approved, I think it's three different types of vaccine for use: the AstraZeneca one, the GlaxoSmithKline one, and the Pfizer-BioNTech one. Oh, and the Moderna one, I think. So another one is coming out, which is great, because, this is going to be, first of all, available to the UK, but if there is another effective vaccine available, I'm sure that the World Health Organization and other bodies will do their absolute best to make sure that it's available as widely as possible. And indeed, I believe it's already got the support from COVAX to try to get this out at a low cost internationally. The particularly encouraging piece of news about today's news is not just that this Novavax vaccine has proved to be effective in these UK trials against coronavirus. It's been specifically shown to be quite effective against the new variant of coronavirus, which was first identified in the UK. I'm a bit reluctant to call it the British variant, because that makes it sound like Britain was responsible for this natural process of the
no, let's not say it that way.
Virus.
Yeah, it is very... Yes, I mean, this is very encouraging, but actually, Tedros has also criticized this bilateral deals between pharmaceutical companies and countries, and he said that has undermined the efforts of the COVAX, which aims to get vaccines to all countries based on need. So how do you look at this? I mean, who will, for example, if COVAX is getting approved, who will be using it first?
Well, I wonder what the alternative is, basically, to having negotiations between the pharmaceutical companies and governments or government blocs like the EU. It's difficult to imagine a better system, given the sort of political architecture and framework that we have at the moment. And, we've seen that there's obviously a disagreement, for example, about the leadership of the WHO, great disagreement between America under the Trump administration and other countries in the world under China. So, it's very difficult to get an international consensus on anything, including the purchase and distribution of vaccines. I think what will happen is with the Novavax vaccine, by the way, that initially it would be available 60 million doses to the UK, and after that the goal is to be able to distribute it internationally. And so that's why the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness is backing Novavax. But you see, the money's actually come to a lot from the American government, billion in funding from the White House. So, I mean, here's a question to raise for your listeners: is it an accident that the vaccine, which has been funded by the United States, has actually almost become ready for use in the United Kingdom, a very close ally of the United States, as the first place in the world that gets it? Perhaps there is a political element to this, more than we recognise.
Okay, and it's good to hear that this Novavax vaccine will be working for the new variants. But if we do not vaccinate people fast enough, there can always be another new variant, right? So what would be the most efficient way to vaccinate the world's population to reach herd immunity? Let's now bring in Anna Odoni. She's professor of public health and director of the School of Public Health at University of Pavia in Italy. Anna, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So what do you think would be the most efficient way to reach herd immunity? And if we think of the variation of the virus, do you think it is even possible to reach herd immunity and end the pandemic through vaccination?
Yes, we do believe that vaccinations and mass immunization campaigns is the only way to reach herd immunity, and this is quite, obvious. The problem now is in how long. And for example, in Europe and in Italy, we had a timeline based on the doses of vaccines that we had asked for, and we thought about reaching herd immunity in a few months, in a year maximum. The time by which we will reach herd immunity strongly depends on availability of vaccines on one side, but also on the other side, on the efficient organization of immunization services. Given that doses of vaccines are coming short at the time, every country, including Italy, had issued documents trying to prioritize categories. And this is based on, of course, scientific elements, but also social demographic elements. Italy, for instance, is a country of all people, as other countries in Europe. So we have started by healthcare professionals, but now we are somehow stopped because we are lacking vaccines. And after healthcare professionals, then we will get to people aged 80 plus in residential healthcare facilities, and then decreasing age range. But it's really a matter of